meetings. We held 3 mini consultative meetings. We were in the North in Bulu, we were in Jinja, and we were in Parara. So we met the women with disabilities, and they raised their voices and concerns about the challenges we face in accessing the programs, the government programs. They were appreciative of the government, but then they said government can put in more effort to see that indeed their intention is fulfilled. So we have some of the representatives present here from the different regions, so they will be able to raise their voices in reference to what they had spoken at the consultative meeting. So now this is the second activity that we are having, that we have at least the government state actors present with the persons they intended to benefit from their programs, have a roundtable talk to see whether indeed their intention was made, to see whether the persons that they intended to benefit have indeed benefited. So that going forward into the next Global Disability Summit that we're having next week, when they make other commitments, they go with a head strong saying, yes, we made a mark, the mark has made progress, let us add into other commitments. As FIDA Uganda, our main mission is to see that there is equality for human rights, women human rights. So this one is a new area for us, disability, but we are very passionate about it, and we want to continue engaging to see that indeed these other people have also been included. Like board chair and all you said, it is not only good for us to say on paper that we are inclusive, and yet practically we are not inclusive. So as FIDA, we decided to move it from paper to make it practical, and that is why we joined the different partners to see that the voices of persons with disability are being heard. So Thomas, I think I have just the 2 minutes.
Yes. Thank you so much. Thanks for FIDA to come out and be part of this movement. Now, I think it's at the right time that we hear from our chief guest, who is also going to, who is representing the commissioner, but also speak from the perspective. You heard it all, that women with disabilities were excited when government made commitments in 2018. Down the road, they were checking whether indeed they have been empowered through those programs. Rose is telling you that whenever they go to these government programs, in Tandikwa, Bonabagagawale, Enyoga, Parish Government Model, which is the other, Operation Wealth Creation, Youth Livelihood Program. They are told, please you go for your own, or you go for your own disability grant. So, and yet for them, I think the message here, what I hear, is that we are women first, not so? Yes. Before we get the disability. So they were checking whether the reason why they want to hear from us, from you as government, is whether you take them as women or you take them as what is the opposite of women with disabilities? I have my lawyer, Nicole. Yes. So I think that is the gist of the meeting. So yes, Madam, you're most welcome to us.
Thank you very much, Director, for giving me this opportunity. The Director Social Protection in absentia, the Director, Executive Director now, the Chairperson, Board of Director Nuudu, representatives from the Busoga Kingdom, MGS present. I see you both here and some other MGS present, CSOs in their various capacities, all protocols observed, ladies and gentlemen. It's my pleasure to be here. My name is Akumu Christine Okot. I work at the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development as Principal Gender Officer, presenting the Commission on Gender and Women Affairs. She sends her apologies. Right now we have a lot of international engagements that she is involved in, and she could not make it for this meeting. I hope I will be able to represent her ably. Members, it's my pleasure to be in this very meeting where we have representatives from various organizations working for women and organizations working for women with disabilities or women with special needs. I like this consortium. You know, when you have women organizations, then you have the women with disability organizations or organizations that work with disabilities. It means that we have a long way to go. It means that we have a lot that we can do together. Looking at the SDG 5, or talking about gender equality and women's empowerment. When we are talking about women's empowerment, definitely we mean that every woman, women are not homogeneous. Disabled persons are part and parcel of that group. That means that if they are not empowered, then definitely you can't claim that, you know, women have reached a certain level. So we need each and every one to be part and parcel of that. I've worked with the Udu when I was in Kulu, and I worked with them on a number of projects, and I'm very proud of that because at that time I was working as a gender officer at Kulu district, local government. And I made sure that every time I'm with them because I knew that they are very important categories of people that categories of women that needs to be looked at and needs our support. And a number of them can testify for that. I know government has a number of policy, legal framework that protects women, persons with disabilities or persons with special needs. We have so many of them. The Equal Opportunities Commission will tell you that yes, we look at all aspects. We try to assess the issues of persons with disability included. What of the age persons? What of these other categories of people? You will find that we have space, like the political representatives, as members say, I know it's there. We have space given, as my colleagues say, for CSOs working with persons with disability, advocating for women issues. They are there, and we know that unless government is able to provide that space, we will not be able to help our women effectively. We have talked about a number of government programs that really women with disabilities should benefit. Of course, I can talk of special grants for persons with disability, but that is not the only money that women with disabilities can benefit from. We have OWEL. If you look at the categories of women who are supposed to benefit from OWEL, actually, past women with special needs are included. The only challenge we have is how do we ensure that they benefit from that. When I was in Omoro, I worked in Omoro as the District Community Development Officer. I used to make sure that I have slots for women with disability. I say, okay, we need the groups for women with disability to also benefit from OWEL, and I make sure that their files are taken and they are included in that. So what we need is how do we ensure that the people in the districts ensure that the women with disability or women with special needs benefit from that, because the project is for women and these are people who are supposed to benefit from that. Even the Youth Livelihood Project, I know in a number of districts, if you look at our ministry has percentages of the youth who are disabled, who have benefited from the program. But I still want to say that they are not enough. We have so many. We have talked about the percentage. The chairperson talked about the percentage of women with disability or persons with disability. There are many. So how can we put ourselves in that position that will make us benefit from that? I know we have leaders. It's a matter of we have our political leaders representation. The groups are brought before them for approval. Their work is to see are the women with disabled women also represented in the groups that are being approved. If not, they will say, no, we cannot approve this, because they are actually very important and we need to consider them. Government has all these programs. And it's just the individuals in the various offices that are not actually ensuring that every woman or every person with disability benefit from that. Because the policies in all those projects or programs that we have just indicators that say, okay, this is for women, but these categories of women should benefit. Then they list all the categories, even for the youth. All the categories that we are talking about are there. So what we need is, how do we ensure that the consortium can work together with the local government and make sure that women benefit or persons with disability benefit from the various programs that we have at the district level. They can work together. And as Ministry of Gender, we are committed to follow up on that. I'm going to pledge on behalf of Ministry of Gender that we will ensure that we will question every file that comes from the district if women with disability are presented. I want to thank Nobu and the team, Peter and Nobu, for the good work. The advocacy is very important. We need to continue advocating for the rights of women with special needs. There was a survey that was done some years back when I was in Kulo, and the people who were in the respondents for the interview, actually 98% of them stated that they experienced gender-based violence of various kinds, sexual violence, economic violence, and all that. And I'm very happy that Vida is in this world. These are people who are there, but they have rights. They know their rights. Some of them don't know their rights, and we need to talk to them. They need to know where to go in cases of violence. They need to know what to do in cases of that. And the work we are doing, and I believe if they know that there is that office, or Vida's office can help them, that is really very good. And I'm very happy that this consortium is there because there are women out there experiencing violence, the girls out there experiencing violence. So we need to join efforts and ensure that that is done. Members, I don't want to talk a lot because I know in this meeting there are so many of the representatives here who want to air and give their views. They want to put in together what they think government and the various MDAs can do to support women with disability. So I want to give this opportunity so that they are able to talk out, because there are so many issues out there, so that each and every one of us who is here is able to take what they can take and ensure that actions are taken on the various issues that are within our community. Members, I want to thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. I say all this for God and my country. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Can I request for another round of applause for the meeting? And since we are moving towards the Valentine, I want to give her a card. I don't know what is written there. She's going to read for herself, then she'll read for you. As she's reading the card, I want to assure you that the next session is going to require when you have a lot of energy. So I'm going to pause here and request ourselves to go for a cup of coffee, generate as much energy, because the next session is, they've said we've been to the region. We've made a number of meetings, and women with disabilities have spoken, and they have spoken so highly. We thought it was only going to be women with disabilities to speak, but we noticed that even those who are saying that they don't have a disability were also speaking. We saw men speaking, men with disabilities. We saw people with responsibility who have been charged also speaking. So the next session is we are going to hear the voices of those of whoever spoke. We are going to check what we're going to ask ourselves what we need to do about it. And for that matter, we need to have as much energy for this. And I can guarantee you, we made commitment to leave this place by 1 o'clock. By 1 o'clock, we shall have listened to each one of you, and the key messages will have come out. I don't know whether she has read my love note, and she's signing, saying yes. Can you believe? Are you excited to hear what she's going to say?
Okay, it is Valentine.
Yes. No, you can still use the microphone.
Thank you very much. I was given this lovely card. And of course, in this card, I want, as I am a more Christian of God, I believe in a disabled, inclusive future. And I commit to ensure that all the programs that are under my department have women with disability included in. I'm working with I work with the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development in the Department of Gender and Women Affairs. I've signed, my email address is there, and then my contact is there. Thank you.
For those of you who didn't get my name proper, I don't just believe, I need to see for myself. Okay, the card is reading. She's saying, I, meaning her, Akum Christian of God, that she believes in a disability inclusive future. During this Global Disability Summit 2022, she commits to change. And she will ensure women with special needs are included in all her programs under her care and responsibility as the Minister of Gender and Women Affairs. She has signed it. So I'm going to give this card to Rose. We are going to keep it, and we are going to keep reminding you. All right. Thank you so much. And for whoever is interested in making that commitment, we have those cards at the reception. Each one of us will have an opportunity to commit in one way or another. Yeah, but you can also commit to continue abusing women with disabilities, and we shall use that to look for you. Like I said, we have feed on our side, so at least we know what to do now. You can also commit to continue excluding women with disabilities from your programs. Again, we shall wait for you when it comes to the ballot box. So, can we use 15 minutes for taking a cup of tea? Then we'll come back when we are energized. For those of you who are visiting this place for the first time, we have some washrooms at the reception, which that are accessible for persons with disabilities. Okay? My assumption is that when we are praying in the morning, even we pray for the meals, right? Yeah. So can we, I think we are having a cup of tea in the corridors, on the veranda. We need to be advised. But for those of you who can't move out, we shall find a way of serving you from wherever you are. Yes. Thank you. Take out the cup of tea.
Welcome. Yes, sir. The name of the brother. Well done. Thank you. Thank you.
So that is an aspect on the government we work from. There are also fears that women with disabilities are left out, intentionally or unintentionally. There are even those empowerment programs that are specialized, that are targeting persons with disabilities. That even among those ones, women with disabilities are also not well included. So, and looking ahead, in the National Development Plan 3, and now that the government is also going to Oslo, they are making a lot of commitments. The reason why we are seated here is that what we check is that what is that plan that is going to empower women with disabilities? When we go through the national plan, the National Development Plan 3, do we see ourselves there? When they are collecting data, are they telling us how many have been reached or how many they are targeting? Or is the statistics being collected too general, not breaking it down to women with disabilities, girls with disabilities? If we say, and we've read a number of reports, and we've had a number of discussions. So that is the reason why we came up with this initiative. This initiative was trying to see how much of women with disabilities have been empowered through the government programs. And we know the government has a number of programs that are aimed at empowering its people, that some of which are aimed at empowering women, but women with disabilities are not moving at the same pace with the rest of the women. We are glad that you're here. Deborah, Rose, Monica have taken us through a journey of how far we've come, that we didn't want to sit in our offices and start imagining or doing other statistics or doing other methods of gauging whether women with disabilities have been empowered or not. We went out there, engaged with women with disabilities, and we didn't want to speak for them, they had to speak for themselves. So, because of finances, Monica told us that we are unable to reach all the regions. But we went to the north, where the meeting was held in Gulu, and it was bringing people from the neighboring districts. There was a meeting in the Jinja, which covered the eastern region. And then there was a meeting in Imbarara, which covered the southwestern. But and today we want to bring those voices into one. But at the same time, we have invited people from the regions that were left out also to come and hear what their colleagues, or they are being represented or they are being misrepresented. So, I'm going to request the lawyer to set us off. She's going to give us an overview of some of the things women with disabilities were saying in the region. She introduced herself already, but for those of you who were not here, Evelyn, the lawyer, is from Gulu. She's a woman. First of all, she's a woman, which is most important, not so? She's a woman, and she's that woman who wants to be empowered. whether she has a disability or not. So that's where she's coming from. And that's what she's been. And in Gulu, she was also a leader. That was before it became a city. Once it became a city, I'm not very sure, I'm not updated. Her roles in the city. But she's going to give us a snapshot of what the discussions were, what are some of the issues women with disabilities have raised. So, Idle, since you're going to 30 minutes.
So for those of you who can see, she's going to have a presentation on the screen, but she will speak to it for those who are unable to see what her presentation. And if you are at the back, then maybe you can see from her explanation.
Thank you very much, moderator. Just to re-echo, my name is Piloya Ibn Gloria from Ulo. I work for a limited company that we formed called Home Farms Limited. We train youth and skill youth on farming. I'm also a disability activist. I'm always there. I started it way back when we were still in Makerere. Those of you who went through Makerere got an organization called Visa that has persons with disabilities. We thought it was important for us to advocate for the rights of persons with disabilities. I'm going to present this on behalf of National Union for Women with Disabilities of Uganda about the barriers raised in access to government empowerment programs from the regional consultative meetings that were held. We started by looking at barriers to employment for women with disabilities, and the following issues were identified. We identified that the methods of advertising was not disability sensitive. For example, for the visually impaired women, it's very difficult to access these adverts because mainly it's put on newspapers. There is nothing like braille, for them to access. Furthermore, we know that the biggest employers are government. And when you look at the application method, application process of the PS forms that we always use, there is nothing, that captures one's disability. Meaning that even during interviewing, most likely reasonable accommodation may not be applied because they do not know the kind of disabilities that are applied for those jobs. So we think the method of advertising and the process, much as we have representation in those district service commission, it is still lacking. Two, we also looked at the negative attitudes and bias towards the employment of women with disabilities in the employment sector. I will give you an example of probably a woman with hearing impairment who applies but needs an additional sign language interpreter, to be employed so that she can comfortably do her job. So we find that most employers have negative attitudes towards, women with disabilities because they don't have an extra cost, It's easier to employ one person than employing, like 2 or 3, persons. Maybe you need a helper, you need a guide, and you need all this. We see it as a challenge, and a lot of people have negative attitudes towards that. There is also limited information and available opportunities. Remember, people with disabilities are the poor of the poorest, according to information that we have. And therefore, getting information is also a challenge. fear of disclosure about disability during the application process. We fear because we think that the moment they know you are a person with disabilities, you are not going to be shortlisted. And therefore, most of the times, people do not want to disclose their disabilities during the application process. We also identified lack of financial resources to access job opportunities in terms of transport, in terms of smartphones. A wheelchair user will be charged for her wheelchair, probably when she's going for an interview. You know, this is happening in most places. That, you know, to transport a person with disability, sometimes it's twice more than, you know, a person without disabilities, especially for us people with physical disabilities, wheelchair users, for example. And then we are saying accessibility to physical organizational structures is difficult, you know. You go to an office and there is no provision of ramps, you know, and all that. It's still happening. Even in my district in Gulu there, when you go to the headquarters, we still have a lot of steps that we've talked about it for many, many years, but nothing has yet been done. And I know it's not only in Gulu, we have it in different places, you know. I'm a board member at National Council of Sports. There are some facilities that I cannot access because it was built, you know, many, many years ago. And so physical accessibility still remains a challenge for persons with disabilities. Women also went ahead to look at barriers limiting accessibility to health and education services. And they identified the following: long distance limiting accessibility to services. For example, we know our health centers. Some of the health centers are like, you know, 20 kilometers away, and without assistive devices, it becomes difficult for a woman with disabilities to access. We have the issue of communication barrier. We don't have sign language interpreters employed by government to help our women with the disabilities. And a lot of women with disabilities have passed on because, you know, they cannot explain to, you know, the doctor their problem because the doctors or the health workers don't understand them. And because of that, you know, it has become a big challenge. Negative attitude among duty bearers. I remember a friend of mine went to give birth in hospital and the labor bed was really high. And then when she asked for help, she was asked, "Are we the one who made you pregnant? You want us to put you up there? You produce on the floor," and she gave birth on the floor because we do not have adjustable beds. So those are the attitudes that we are talking about in our communities. School programs, structures, and policies do not adequately favor children with disabilities. You'll bear with me that schools for children with disabilities are very expensive. Actually, there is no UPE in schools for children with disability. There is one school for the blind in Gulu. The children pay about 300,000. Yet, you know, a child without disability pays around 50, 40,000. But this one with disability pays more. And so it affects girls with disabilities as well. They are not taken to school. They end up, you know, staying in the village out there with less opportunities available to them. Lack of disaggregated data on women with disabilities that have accessed health services in the health centers. That was also identified as a big challenge, and we are happy that the people concerned with the data are present with us here. We hope they will help us to bridge that gap. Cost of education for persons with disabilities in terms of disability needs and risks. and reasonable accommodation was also identified as a challenge. Limited information sharing among women with disabilities on benefits of access to health services. I've already talked about inaccessible infrastructures like ramps and adjustable beds, and high poverty levels among people with disabilities, leading to school dropouts. We went ahead to look at barriers to leadership for women with disabilities. We looked at negative attitudes towards women with disabilities. In the last election, I decided to contest with other women to represent my constituency in the Parliament of Uganda. And people were asking me, what are you looking for among these women? Your slot is there, And that is the attitude people still, have towards people with disabilities, thinking the 5 slots is enough for all of us. And we are saying that the leadership capacity enhancement for women with disabilities is not adequately prioritized, leading to low participation. Then, due to limited education, women with disabilities, effective leadership participation is a challenge. We know that some of these leadership positions require certain qualifications, and because of that, a lot of women miss out of those leadership positions. And sometimes, even if they are represented, because of that limited education and limited capacity, some are not effectively representing women with disabilities. Social barriers leading to discrimination of women with disabilities also frustrates their abilities, and we also identified lack of information on existing leadership opportunities. Honorable Achayo has been speaking about the issue of the Women Council. There is a guideline for the Women Council, but when you look at that guideline, Electoral Commission has delegated their work to women organizations for persons with disabilities in the different districts. But you find that not all the districts have, organization for women with disabilities. And sometimes these organizations also don't have resources to organize elections for women with disabilities. And therefore, we think that Electoral Commission should take charge of, organizing those elections by themselves instead of delegating it to organization for women with disabilities. And it even stops somehow at the district level. At the national level, it's completely unclear. And therefore, this is where we are calling the Women Council. I'm happy they are represented here. And UOPA, the organization the Organization for Women of Uganda Parliamentarians, we ask you to look into this law so that as women with disabilities we can participate. Women came up with the following recommendations. National planning bodies and policymakers to prioritize inclusive planning to increase participation of women with disabilities in the national programs. 2, accessibility, limited information and poverty are still a big challenge. Hence, the need to ensure inclusive infrastructural development, supportive devices, and poverty alleviation strategies to enhance participation of women with disabilities. Disability is wide, hence stakeholders are urged to ensure fair involvement and consideration of all categories of persons with disabilities for fair participation. We know that the most vulnerable group of women with disabilities are those with mental disabilities, and they are often left behind. And therefore, we need to really find a way of, including every woman with disabilities, as said earlier on. There is also need to build a disability think tank to influence mindset change and showcase successes of women with disabilities to enhance social confidence in integrating disability within the existing programs. Consistent monitoring of empowerment programs to determine the extent to which women with disabilities are benefiting. And here we are again asking government. You'll agree with me that when you go to districts and ask for, how many women with disabilities have benefited from this program, most of the time the data is not there. In the past council, I was a councillor, 5. And Northern Uganda has got a lot of empowerment programs, like NUSAF. NUSAF is not only in Northern Uganda, but it's also in Eastern Uganda and other parts of Uganda. Now we have PRELNA, that, it's being, implemented. But most of the time when you ask for data about how many people with disabilities, how many people, women with disabilities have benefited, it is not there. And most of the time the technocrats say they are working on a monitoring system at the national level. We ask that that system they speed up this monitoring system so that we are able to get data to make informed decision. Without that data, we cannot make informed decision, and we cannot know how many persons with disabilities have benefited and how to help them. Need for more budgetary allocation on disability special grants and other existing programs to widen benefits for women with disabilities. National guidelines on existing empowerment programs to be more elaborate on matters of disability inclusion. We are happy about the parish development model. They have told us that 10% will be for persons with disabilities. But we are waiting for the guideline, how it will be elaborate enough, so that as persons with disabilities, we don't miss out. Already I see the implementers being formed at the parish level. And in one of the parish I visited, I saw only one person with disabilities being represented on that committee. And we are wondering whether one person can really influence much. So these are some of the things that we need clarity on. Stakeholders to institute disability desks within their different organizations to enforce disability inclusive matters. And we are also saying that a national disability census to be prioritized by UBOS to gather comprehensive data to inform inclusive programming. The Ministry of Gender and other stakeholders to embark on extensive behavioral and mindset change programs on disabilities to address societal biasness and discrimination of persons with disabilities. We know that issues of disabilities cannot be tackled by only one person. And therefore we think that if the ministry comes in and together with that point of putting a disability desk in every organization, we can achieve this mindset change that we are talking about. Fair representation of persons with disabilities in leadership to advance disability inclusive agendas. And this is the reason why I was talking about representation, at that parish model committee level, and even at other levels. We think more people with disabilities need to be included at that level if we want, these empowerment programs to benefit persons with disabilities. This is the end of my presentation. I want to thank all of you for listening. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gloria. Can we give another round of applause?
Before we proceed, for those of you who are in the regions, is there anything that Gloria has mentioned that we never mentioned? Is she misrepresenting in other words? Eunice is having a minority.
Thank you, Thomas, and thank you, Pilaya, for representing us as people who participated in the regional consultative meetings. I have an additional issue concerning the persons we deal with in our districts, more especially our CDOs. At times, our people do not access these economic empowerment programs because it may use large corruption. They will just tell some of our groups that yes, we are going to approve your group, but if it is 1 million, you will take 500,000 and 500,000 would be our take home. So it has been a challenge. I don't know how I understand the commissioner has already left, but at least we ask that let the bodies concerned try to give our people what is supposed to be done. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Eunice. She's adding corruption to the barriers. Okay. Now, just hold your fire yet, because every one of us is going to say something. Just for clarification, to put it in a better perspective for our colleagues from the National Planning Authority. We were checking with these groups, and many of them had not seen the National Inclusive Planning Guidelines. So I think that's where we should start it from, that yes, we have those guidelines, but very few people have come across them, and in most of the districts it was a very big issue. But before we proceed, I would like also to recognize two other colleagues who have joined us and have not introduced themselves, and I'll give them an opportunity to introduce themselves. And I'll start with Goreti. Goreti is let me first of all say how much she wants to share with you, and if she doesn't, then I'll use my powers to give more information.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Sorry I was late, but I had an engagement earlier. I'm Goreti Yogire. I'm a lecturer at Makerere University Business School. I'm also the director of the Disability Resource and Learning Center. And besides that, I'm very passionate in disability, and I've done so many projects in inclusive education. I'm very passionate in that area of inclusive education. That's where I find most of my work. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Goreti, and you're welcome. Now, for those of you who want to go to Oslo, the person who is going to introduce himself is the one issuing visas.
No, I think that's great. It's smiling. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Person who's the work who's had Norwegian Association of Disabled as a council president. I'm happy to be here. I don't do this out.
No, yeah, thank you, Edson, for coming. We specifically invited you to come and listen. But also, we are sure that we're going to use some of the platforms where women with disabilities may not be, but you can hear the voices and be able to present them there. You're most welcome. So, you have the women want something to say, to dispute what they are saying. This time was up first.
Yes, thank you very much. I want to thank Evelyn for elaborately representing the views of during the regional consultative meeting. And like I already said, pretty right. I worked in the local government of Maori district. And I'm also with the support of Udu during advocacy on monitoring of CRPD, they formed the caucus for monitoring the implementation of CRPD. And during those periods when we were monitoring the implementation of CRPD, just to add on the challenges that women face most during, women with disability, that I feel should also be taken up at this level, because I am impressed that FIDA is here. Access to justice is a big challenge for women with disability. A woman with disability is raped, but has no capacity to go to police to report. And even if you go to police to report, you know what happens. Going to arrest such a person, they are always asking you to give fuel. And it is really a big challenge down there at the grassroots, access to justice. Gender-based violence was a very big case, and it is still there among women with disability. At this level here, we may not experience because maybe we are exposed to what, but down. So I want that this gathering, we also pronounce ourselves, especially by putting a special desk at the police station, so that when persons, especially women with disability come, they are supported immediately. And lastly, denial of land, which has affected economic empowerment of women with disabilities. When if a woman with disabilities is given her goats and what have you, she takes home, you find the man is saying, this is not your land. After all, they can even separate. So those are still some of the challenges. And of course, the recommendation still stand that we need advocacy to continue with the duty bearers in order to support the rights of persons with disability. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. She has added to gender-based violence as a barrier, but also now she's also adding property, inheritance, succession. So those are some of the things she's also raising. I can see many people want to add on to this, and all of us will get an opportunity. And I've seen the hands, so I would request you first put them down, and then, yeah, and because I get to you, I've already known whom are going to follow and who is going to follow the other. But I wanted to bring in another perspective from another leader from northern Uganda, because I think the issues we are listening are coming mainly from the north. But before we can open it up for the rest of us, we need to bring in an additional perspective. Yes.
Thank you very much. Me, I wanted to add on this. On inclusive. Me, I think if we say inclusive and we don't say where exactly we need to be inclusive, they will include us just anyhow. But me, I was in a view of saying that if the government could accept a good sign language interpretation to be as a curriculum in all sectors. Really, members, there, I think we shall be helped and we shall be fully inclusive. Thank you.
Thank you so much. She's asking us to redefine inclusion, right? When we see a report or when we see a guideline like inclusion, what does it mean in practical terms? I think that's why she's asking us to reflect on. I'm looking for a person who wasn't in that consultative meeting to give us the perspective. Alright, for those of you, I checked if there was any minority position, there wasn't. So, some that wasn't in the consultative meeting.
Yes.
I don't know why they did not do it. We are still demanding.
No, we are coming.
My addition is that we got talent during election time in the categories of people with disabilities. Why electoral commission are just speaking anyhow. They don't know who's blind. They just speak. So I think we want Naudu or any person, people with disability, to give us the categories and also give the electoral commission. During the election time, they will know who is a disabled person. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much. I think she's going back to what Gloria mentioned, that information, our education, civic education work needs to be inclusive as well. Okay? So, we want to bring it, we want first of all to bring a practical example. We want to hear a person with disability, how she feels empowered or not empowered, and what she thinks should be the right way of empowering a woman with a disability. I'm going to ask Olive to give her experience of how it means to be a woman with a disability with a desire to be equally empowered. I have a microphone on the other side. You can feel free to use the
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm excited to be at such a place with all of you. Really, there are very many stakeholders that introduce themselves, and I'm really looking forward to connect with you. So first things first, the Director of Social Protection, Executive Director, CEOs of civil society organizations, cultural leaders, we have the Solar Kingdom. We have different ministries, departments and agencies, the media fraternity, all protocols observed. I really appreciate the organizers for such a time. Being part of the Global Disability Summit objective to strengthen the capacity of organizations of persons with albinism in the Global South and their engagement with government, this for me is a fulfillment of this objective. And we are excited that we are having this discussion, which will go a long way in amplifying our voice at different forums. I also want to take this opportunity to appreciate Parliament, OSA is here, and the Ministry of Gender. I feel it is a big milestone that we need to celebrate the Person with Disability Act 2020 that was passed. I think they deserve a clap. Without this, why I made us appreciate them, some of us will not be standing here. I want to echo this, that there are perhaps, I could say, invisible disabilities albinism being visible as it may be, but it was invisible to the government then. As in, it's until this act came out that people with albinism were included. So you understand why we really appreciate such a stand. That being said, I always want to give a brief about albinism because there is a wide level of ignorance about this condition. Albinism is a genetic condition, inherited from both parents. It is not a woman's problem. Never a woman's problem. It is both parents. Those of two gene that you produce someone like me. So I apologize here with the men. Quite often this issue is left to women. And what does it come with? It comes with some issues of inadequacies because we do not have the black pigment. We are very susceptible to sun damage. And when our skins are exposed to the sun, and you know, it leads to death. With this disability, short-sightedness or visual impairment, I was looking at the screen and the presentation. I could only read the headings, you know? The other letters were really small. And these are some of the reasonable accommodations that we journey of perhaps one of the most vulnerable women with disabilities. A woman begins a girl deep in Nuero. They have education. I always applaud my mother because it took a lot of courage. Because going to school meant a lot of effort, right from home to school. You have a crowd running around you, calling you names. You go to class, they are pinching you. Are you really human? Are you part of us? But today, we celebrate that there was that push of that woman, that today I am who I am. Disability is always biased to women. You will agree with me, for the men that are here. Or it is something that we all know, that when a woman gives birth to a child with any disability, men are quick to say, I'll use Uganda, you agree? Yes. So why is it that disability is a woman's issue? You know, this intersectionality is really a bad mix. Being a woman is hard enough, isn't it? So if you are the burden, and then you bring another burden in court, how are we going to look at this? So we are calling upon all of us to be the change. That a woman is equal in every capacity to a man. And I think we are really doing something to prove that we are able. So we must appreciate really the regime. For people with disabilities, yes, we are in a multi-party organization, rather assisting, but we need to give credit where it is due. Perhaps without us getting to the level of representation in Parliament, we would not be here. Today we have representatives right at the sub-county. We need to appreciate that. But like we have said, and many speakers have given this, that there is a lot yet to be done. So we also need to know that women with disabilities lack the best education. Like I gave you the example of my mother knew that without education, I'm doomed. She would encourage you every day. And for me, I got career guidance from her. From before, I had many things that I wanted to be. But she would make you look at the world in a better place. She may not have a degree to her name, but she knew that education is the lock to many, rather we unlock many opportunities. I want to echo that in the 2018 recommendations that were done, the government of Uganda had wanted to finalize the development of the National Inclusive Education Policy. And they were asked, or they pledged to have an action plan, host it and implement it. Like we have said, we may not have an audit to this, but my guess is as good as yours. We with the 2 years of COVID that really ravaged the world, I'm doubtful that this has come to fruition. So as a woman with disability, we need reasonable accommodation. Being represented is good, but are we just part of the statistics? Of the parish model has 10%, you have olives there, you know, just for the members. Are we participating, fully meaningful participation? So what do we need to really participate? I have alluded to this, that we need a mindset change. We really need a mindset change because this begins with you, the duty bearer, to help me be seen as somebody different, but allowed to be different. I want to emphasize that disability is not homogeneous, yes. It is not one blanket of women with disabilities, no. There are people who need different reasonable accommodations. If I'm a wheelchair user, like I pointed to you, vision is my challenge. Another may have a hearing impairment. Another may only need a little explanation, you know, sign language. So please understand that you having women with disability is not just a blanket thing. Let's unpack this. And I have a mantra that if I can change one person's life, then I can smile. Our problems are, you know, that shopping list that we always have. And I will not mention all this. She's done a good job. But as a leader in your capacity, as a government, as a cultural leader, as that officer in that organization, do you ever think that that small contribution you make can change just one person's life? If you only focused on changing one person, you would be amazed at how many people you would have changed. You get what I say. So if today let me paint a picture of some woman in Chenjojo who has 7 kids, has lost her husband, and is looking for, you know, livelihood. And that is a picture for you that you have. You are doing youth livelihood. Maybe she has an 18-year-old boy who would want to be skilled in mechanics. If you only went for just that one boy in that home, you don't know how big the community you would have touched. So I encourage each of us today that please focus. And like other people have said, disability is everybody's responsibility. You and me, it is our responsibility. I laughed when somebody said, women with disabilities and those who are temporarily without disability. I didn't want to make it as like a sentence of you are temporarily without. But it is a fact of life. Today we know the road carnage that happens on our roads, and you can become disabled at any moment. So let us be wide thinking and really bring this to book. Some of the challenges that I didn't hear being really talked about, and as a woman, this for me speaks volumes. The GBV, gender-based violence, has been talked about, but there are so many rights that have been violated. For instance, the sexual reproductive health rights, you know. Albinism has so many myths, and one of the very bad ones is that when you have kind of knowledge of a woman with albinism, you get cured of AIDS. Anyone heard of that? Yes. You know how terrible that is? So our girls are raped. Others, because of their economic rights being violated, so vulnerable that they will be paid very small monies to have kind of knowledge with them. And that is very absurd. So as leaders, may we begin to live by an example. I want to give one of the other experiences that in my career journey that I went through. I one time worked with a bank, and I remember one of my bosses, unfortunately he phoned me at the bank, but he was my boss, so the role I had was strategic planning manager. And according to him, when he saw me, he's like, are you sure you will do this job? Are you able to talk? Are you even able to, you know, fulfill this role? You understand? So, and I'm like, okay, what is the reason? I wanted it to come from him. Why would you doubt for whoever interviewed me for this job that I will not do? And he was not shy. He said, but you have albinism. Yes. Yeah. That is the society where we live. So yes, you have paved through every thick and thin to get a job. But even right there are people who think that you should not be there. You understand? So it is us to stand up and be counted, you know? Let us claim these spaces. Our employers are not, yeah, they're in business, if we can say. Government is the biggest employer, but they will not employ all of us. I again want to thank the Parliament of Uganda and our former Speaker. Through advocacy, they are living by example. I'm calling upon MBAs that are here, the public service and all this. We have the very first person with albinism and the staff of Parliament. That did not come easy. Yes, so we are calling upon Minister of Gender. Yet can we have people with disabilities employed not only in the disability sector? You know, we have a lot of skill. You agree? A lot of skill. Why are we confined to only these sections of disability? And I want to conclude by saying that the global agenda of leaving no one behind stems from the fact that our country can go that far as the poorest person therein. So even if we strive to be in the middle income status as Uganda, we will be measured as the poorest. For I'm sure that people who know that somehow those numbers, even if we have only 10% of people up there having a lot of money, yet the poorest is living below $1, they will equalize somewhere. You understand? So it has been said that if you want to offer, you can go alone. If you really can do that. But if you want to move as a group, then let us look for whoever is left behind, and beginning with those that are farthest behind. I love the theme that we had for the International Disability Day 2021, where they're looking at invisible disabilities. Invisible in the sense that, I always say that in disability we have like the big four, or the sports people, you know, but we have the physical, the blind, the lame, and the deaf-blind. They are, you know, maybe we have known them as the big four. You agree with me? Issues of little people, people with vitiligo, albinism, mental health, epilepsy, there are so many. You understand? So can we get to these that are farthest behind, and then as a disability movement, we'll be able to register some progress. So we call upon the MDAs, that is ministries, departments, and agencies, to give an opportunity to different people to work. Give us an opportunity. Honestly, the excuse of no money is not valid. It is not valid until when are we not going to have money? The truth is we have money for the priorities that we cater for, or we like to, you know? So we are saying, please embrace diversity. Embrace diversity. As it was, so it is not today. Things have changed. Who knew that today we would have so many online meetings going on? You can be home and access everything that you can. 10 years ago, maybe these things were not possible. The issue of globalization and digitalization are so critical. Have people with disabilities, women with disabilities, embraced this change? Are we part of the people that are going to sit and say, yes, we are not left behind? Looking at the economic rights, I appreciate that we have the regulator of microfinance institutions here. And like I alluded, I worked in a bank, so I have some experience about microfinance. Yes, microfinance and banking, I've done some work there. But yet you can have all these loans given out. I know you need collateral, you need all this. You know what level of women possess land titles, for instance, or even any assets. Can you as a regulator task the microfinance institutions to have those loan schemes that are skewed to that woman so that they can access these finances? Today, we have the village savings and loan association almost in every part. assisting in the banking sector or the microfinance to begin with, that will have them graduate from VSLA to the full banking sector. So this for me will help us to have our economic rights. And as a government official, let's not leave the work of disability to the National Council, to the MPs, to Minister of Gender. And I always joke about the Minister of Gender. I think there are 6 or 5 ministries in one. They are the people's ministry. The youth are there, the unemployed are there, the children are there, the elderly are there. So how on earth are they going to fulfill all our needs? So that is why I continue to call upon all of us that disability is everyone's right, and we need to be reminded that the change that is here, we may not go back. The world is becoming so digital. Are we accessing the skills? There is also a recommendation about the ICT for disability. What have we done? It is very expensive to have, for my friends who are visually impaired, to have JAWS on their computers. I'm told it costs around 3 million shillings.
Olive, did you say you were summarizing?
Pardon?
Did you say that was your concluding?
Yes, and I am really concluding. So, yes, thank you so much, Thomas. I'm concluding with that ICT for people with disability and calling upon us to have a community of practice. Someone mentioned it, that if we have a community of practice that will have like a think tank for disability not being homogeneous, let us commit to change. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Olive. That is powerful. I've only picked one thing, that we commit to change, that we stand out to be counted. And on each of your desks, there is a card, which is, if you feel convinced to commit, please fill it and commit. We shall keep that card for our reasons, but also to keep reminding you on the commitment that you're making today. So we've had it. We have heard that women with disability also need to be empowered, but they are getting some challenges. They are finding a number of barriers, and that they are not being included. And they've mentioned all of us, wherever we sit. I'm sure we can see that the call is coming to all of us, be it in financial inclusion, be it in inclusive health, be it in education, be it in rights, be it in access to justice, be it anything. So, what is your take? What are you hearing? What have you heard? What are you thinking? What is running in your mind is now what we are getting to. I want to hear what is running in your mind. And I want to take this privilege, first of all, ask that question before any one of you takes the privilege to ask Owechitiibwa. What is running in your mind? You've heard, you've listened, you've seen it. I mean, what is going on in Busoga? What is going on to you as a woman in both in the academia, but also in the social world? If you could please step forward and take the podium, and you tell us what is running in your mind, and whether you too are going to accept my card.
All protocol observed.
More request. We have some audience online. They've requested that when we are speaking, we introduce ourselves so that they can follow properly.
My name is Owechitiibwa Dr. Joyce Abaluwano Mulebeke, Minister of Gender, Women, Children Affairs, Busoga Kingdom. But I'm also an advocate for the people with disability. What is on my mind? Last night, I got a call the other day about this invitation, and I was thinking, every time we come for workshops, we find stationery on the tables, not so? We find pens. Today we have come for a meeting that we very well knew was going to have people with special needs. Have we found braille machines? Have we found wheelchairs at the hotel, just in case someone comes out of their car and they don't have a wheelchair and they need one? Have we found all those equipment that our sisters and brothers need? So, when she talked inclusiveness, where should inclusiveness start from? I think inclusiveness should start from the word go. That is at nursery. The curriculum should be inclusive, so that all of us learn sign language, so that I can communicate to any of my sisters and brothers. But if the curriculum is not inclusive, and it is only inclusive either at university level or at secondary level, what about the child in nursery? It means that people with, persons with special needs are not going to nursery because they cannot be understood. So where should inclusiveness start from? Inclusiveness should start right from the family. The family should know how to handle people with special needs. So, I feel that when we talk inclusiveness, we are giving lip service to ourselves. As long as we don't have, we are all not a support system to people with special needs. I want to learn sign language. I want to be able to know the problems that people with albinism go through. I want to be able to know the problems that people with vitiligo go through. How can I help? How can I support? And when we talk disability, it should not be an issue of the disabled talking. It should be an issue of all of us talking. Because when we all talk, then we know we are going to be a support system to each other. Because we need them and they also need us. I liked it when she said, we are all temporarily abled. Anything can happen and you become disabled. And I want to tell you, when you look at those disabilities that we can't see, trust me, each and every one of us has a disability. It's just that they are not visible, but each and every one of us has. So we need the support system, and the support system is going to come from all of us. Let us all be included when it comes to issues of sign language, when it comes to issues of helping people with special needs. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I saw Evelyn clapping, so she's happy to see that level of commitment on behalf of women with disabilities in Uganda. Like as I've said, if you feel convinced and you want to commit, please commit yourself. And if you want to appear in our promotional materials, the ladies with the cameras will come to you, and then you give them that consent. We did all this with one event in mind. We wanted to be for people in that event not forget certain important things. So many of us may have had and maybe are reading about GDS 22. Many of us have had in the invitation that maybe we're talking about that. And as we all know, that the Global Disability Summit is only next week, and many of us may not have as much information as we should. We have Edson in the room, I'm going to ask him to tell us a little bit more about the Global Disability Summit in Oslo, but also some of the activities that are going on in the country. Not because he's the person responsible for disempowering women with disabilities, but but he's here also to make that commitment, to show the commitment to support women with disabilities also to get empowered. And he will tell us a little bit more about NAD and what perhaps they are doing in that area of empowering women with disabilities in Uganda. And he can't accuse me of ambushing him because
Thank you, Thomas, for giving this opportunity. Once again, I'm Edson Grabakunzi. For those who are online, I work with the Norwegian Association of Disabled, NAD, in Uganda. We have been in Uganda for the last, what can I say, I think since the 1990s, when NAD was cooperating with the Ministry of Women and Development by that time, I think, and now the Minister of Gender, Labor and Social Development. And our major work was to work around the CBR, for those of you who know CBR. And I see some CBR guys here who are looking at me. You know, I know the ministry people, so they can't hide away. So I see my colleague there, I see my OB there, all those are the Ministry of Gender. So they supported this program for so many years until I think they found it necessary to go to other spaces. They have also supported the former UNICE. There was a program, actually, I think, but I think you know this. You will tell them in your free time. And because of that, NAD realized it was important to work with ministries, departments, and agencies because it was more sustainable if we worked with government to ensure that the issues my sister Peter is speaking to can partly be captured on a sustainable basis if they are integrated in government plans and programs. So that's NAD. In Uganda, we are trying to have presence. We've been working straight from Oslo, so I will be the country representative for now, trying to engage with our stakeholders, the civil society, the government, and all other community members, and of course my colleagues, persons with disabilities. So that's a brief about NAD. And we are, of course, trying to be setting up an office in the Minister's Village, below UNEB, so you can find us on Moafu Road 3. That's where we are for now. Coming to the Global Disability Summit, there have been a lot of meetings in Oslo, preparing for the Global Disability Summit, together with the government of Ghana, and the way we did in 2018 with the UK and the government of Kenya. So there's that partnership to ensure that the Global Disability Summit is held. We shall take stock of what happened in the UK. The IDDC, IDA, those are international DPOs, are participating in this. And I'm sure there are processes of engaging, including these ones, the local level. So the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Embassy of Norway in Uganda has already made a commitment, and we are having series of meetings where the civil society is going to be engaged and invited. However, because of COVID, as you are aware, there will be most of the events on the online platforms, and all these will be shared and they're being shared as well. For purposes of timelines, we have the youth forum. The youth forum is on the 14th, which I think is next week, Monday. There will be a youth forum. There will be a civil society forum on 15th as well. And on all these, there are side events. In Uganda, there's going to be an inclusive education side event, and I think that my colleagues will communicate that. We are also going to work with all these colleagues in the development partners on this matter. So together with the Norwegian Embassy, NAD, and the other partners, we are going to have a bit of attendance of around 40 people like you are here, on around 16th, I think, on Onono Hotel, which is, now I don't know where I am in terms of direction. Nakasero, right? Nakasero. Those who know the Norwegian Embassy, it's the next hotel. So the invitations will be coming out very quickly to ensure that those few representatives will be attending that physically, and of course the government and other leaders will be in attendance. So why we need this, I think it's again more to speak more to what my colleague Thomas has said. We still believe we need the systematic disability inclusion in all programs of government and civil society. And in fact, we need a strong language of people. I agree with you. We need a strong language, policy language on disability issues. So if you are going to do a word count, how many disability words are going to come from all of us in this meeting? For example, if it is to be a test. So we need that kind of strong disability language in all the strategies we are going to undertake, in all the policy frameworks we are going to undertake. Yesterday evening, we had the Africa Development Bank, for example, as an institution in Africa giving out funds. There was a debate there reviewing what we call integrative social safeguard system. This is a system that they use to look at the economic impact, social impact of their programs within the communities. And in these communities, we need to be committed to ensure that the change that we are talking about also comes to persons with disabilities. So there is nobody at that front that is engaging with some of these institutions to bring a disability perspective, for example. So attending Global Disability Summit is a very good precursor for us to have inertia of debate on the issues of disability to ensure that we have inclusive society where people's disabilities are not left behind. I'm not so sure whether to speak beyond this, but I think this is what is happening. Our call is that we need to make our commitments very clear and elaborate, and Thomas, please, I will sign that card with a lot of commitment. So don't look at me and you get surprised why I'm signing or not signing. So that's my disclaimer. But nonetheless, thank you so much for inviting me here, and I'm happy to be part of this meeting.
Okay, thank you so much, Edson, and thank you for making that commitment. And a good thing that you're committing it before lunch, so we will not say it had an impact of the lunch. Yeah, so again, we want to bring in perspectives. The perspective of whether Evelyn represented us properly, the perspective of what is running in your mind. I'm not very sure whether, Evelyn, you were talking about women with disabilities. Those are voices of women with disabilities, right? I wasn't very sure whether youth with disabilities have the same issues. So I want to ask my own Betty to come and tell us, when you heard Evelyn speak, is she speaking for you as well, as a young woman with a disability? Or, for purposes of reasonable accommodation, please let's allow Betty to speak from wherever she is. Sorry? She's going to come. Okay. As she's coming, can I see who else is touched and has a comment so that I can manage my time properly? I know National Planning Authority has to say something. There was something to do with the There were quite a number of questions around financial inclusion, and we have the regulator in the house. The chairperson herself is here of the Women Council. Who else do we want to hear from? Again, now being... Okay. Yeah, and who else? I'm trying to... You both, yes. They are talking about that, and then they are asking you to talk about, to give them the figures, and include that. But when my expectation was that once NPA comes in, maybe they will have spoken for UBOS, but let's see what happens. So, Betty, when you listen to Evelyn here, did she speak to your heart as a young woman with a disability? Are there some issues that are specific to youth with a disability?
Thank you very much, Thomas. My name is Betty Cheptoek. I'm the Executive Director, Show Abilities Uganda. For those who came in a bit later, Show Abilities Uganda is an umbrella organization that advocates for the rights of different country. It's a new young organization that just emanated from Nudipo, has just been given to birth by Nudipo. And I love the conversations and how everything is flowing. I love the issues that are coming up, but just like you have said, issues of young people, and specifically young persons or young women with disabilities, are not clearly coming out. Not only in our setting here, but everywhere in the communities. I would have really also loved so much to hear what were the voices that came up from the young girls with disabilities, because they have a lot of their issues. You will find that a girl with disability, just like it was mentioned here, most of the perpetrators would want to target these ones because they are unable to walk. Olive just told us about a story where when it comes to trying to test, or when people want to find out, like she said, when most perpetrators want to use girls with disabilities who have albinism to cure HIV, I think, which is a very big myth. And for me, I would really have loved to see that when we are carrying out interventions in the community, how are we trying to deliberately target these young girls with disabilities? Because you find that a girl with intellectual disability who may not be able to communicate is left out. Maybe she's supposed to, someone would have told her to join a program, but there are no deliberate people even within their families to talk to this person. And that is a very big challenge to them. We are talking about employment. Employment affects more the young people, more so those who have finished university. Even amidst our organizations in here and outside, they wouldn't want to bring these people on board, to mentor them, to prepare them for the future, to be the leaders, to reach the age that all of us are in. And for me, I think it's something that would, for me, be a commitment to change while we are focusing on the Global Disability Summit theme this year. Because if we cannot have the platform to give the opportunity to these young women, then who is there to prepare them? Many of the girls with disabilities do not even know how to use a pad. I'm sorry to use that word. Or because of their severity of the disabilities, like for example, those with cerebral palsy, they struggle a lot, to even touch a phone like this. Now, what about when it comes to issues of SRHR? And yet they have this. and they need someone to speak for them. I mean, to speak to them. They need someone to get closer to them.
Okay.
Let me just finalize.
Yes.
I'm looking at like FIDA. You are our partner. We are very grateful that you are part of the movement now. I really would want to see us move strategically with you to reach out to these girls and young women with disabilities, because there is a lot to learn from them in terms of access to justice. If I only had the time, I would speak a lot, but thank you so much for giving me the opportunity.
Yes, thank you so much, Betty. But like Edson says, you'll have to forego your Valentine's Day and join the Youth Disability Summit. Yeah. Now, in the room, we have a Mumbeda. Is that the correct word for a princess? We have a Mumbeja. You come, Mumbeja, you're the only one here. Tell us, if only one thing that could have been left out, if you had an opportunity to speak to Gloria, that you didn't include this, what would it be? You tell them why you're
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Mumbeja Nabadajoy Florence from Uganda Kingdom, the biggest kingdom in Uganda, actually, East Africa. And I'm here to talk about, I'm a little person, for those who don't see me. I'm 4 feet and 5 inches. So, I work with UNAPID, but I'm a little person. I'm going to talk on behalf of little people. We have issues. Some people don't know that we have disabilities or we have impairments. Like, for example, I can't talk on this platform because, of course, if I come this side, you won't see me. Sometimes even I climb on chairs so that I am easily seen, because the more I stand, the more people don't see me. So we have still challenges that some men think, because people with albinism are expected to be spiritual, some things, but still even we have challenges because men think that we are so much different from other people. We don't divorce. We don't have, like, we are so sweet, I'm sorry to say that. But I think, to me, I think we are like any other people. and people think that even if, for example, in schools, I was lucky that I would reach my voice to the head teachers, but I have my sisters and brothers who have gone to school whereby all the chairs are very high and there is no way they can adjust those chairs, you know that. So by the time you go to the HM, unless when your brain is very sharp, but still they even think that you're just disturbing them. So, some of my colleagues still went to school late because they were told, actually, up to now my hand doesn't reach the ear, but some friends of mine started P1 when they were 10 and above because they were considered to be young since their arms were not reaching the other ear. So it means if they are still believing that, we shall be going to school when we are above 25. And I'm 25, but I'm above 25, but still my hand doesn't reach there. So I don't know, maybe they don't want us to go to schools.
Okay.
Still, about representations in parliament, most people are talking about disability, like wheelchair users and others, but they leave alone little people, because they think that we don't have any needs. But we do have. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much, Omumbeja. Again, I think she's trying to expound our understanding of disability, that there are ways of thinking about disability categories. And when we are doing the planning, And when we are breaking down the data, those are some of the things that we need to include. So I know we are running short of time, but I'm going to give 3 minutes to people who want to make comments regarding the request that Piloya and her group have made, but also it could use that same piece to tell us what the change that you're going to make in that organization. And I wanted to start with the NPA, yeah, because these are the ones who are going to develop the guidelines for the parish model, and then they are the ones who are breaking down the indicators. There's a sanitizer, if you could use that.
Thank you so much, colleagues. Protocol observed. Once again, my name is Asio Jennifer Ross. I work with the National Planning Authority. As a person, I would first of all want to appreciate everyone and organizers for bringing us here to discuss issues that really affect us and our colleagues differently. As National Planning Authority, we note and take care of disability in planning. And we all know that currently we have a National Development Plan 3, which is disability inclusive, which takes care of disability, and it takes care of disability as a cross-cutting issue. Therefore, it means that if not integrated, institutions are held accountable. We also undertake assessment of plans, budgets, to ensure that such issues are catered for. And as National Planning Authority, for now we know that the guidelines, the disability inclusion guidelines that were there have expired, but we are in process of developing the new guidelines, given the fact that we have moved away from sector to program-based planning and budgeting, meaning we want to see that disability is not just in one sector alone, in one program alone. It is captured in all programs, whether it's in infrastructure, mineral development. We want to see that disabled persons are catered for in such programs. We also note that the parish development model is out and the guidelines are out, maybe not yet shared, but we shall share. But when you look at the parish development model, the pillars, truly you think about and see that in all the pillars, we should find ways whereby disability is included. When you look at production, storage, processing and marketing, we should ask ourselves, in this pillar, how can we ensure that women with disabilities benefit in that pillar? Under production, maybe we cannot be at the production level, but maybe other areas, given the different disabilities that women have, but probably women could go into processing. Maybe it would be better if empowered. When you look at also infrastructure and economic services, we should push for what? Disability inclusive infrastructures. We should not start seeing where some kids are having lifts, some are not having. Surely we also want to be there as disabled women. We want to go down there, but are we able? When going to some institutions, you look at the infrastructure. We do not have ramps, we do not have lifts, yet you're calling me to do an interview up, surely. This is where we should point out, we should ensure that disability is included in infrastructure and economic services. Financial inclusion, we also need to ensure that disabled women are empowered financially. They should get knowledge on how to invest. Yes, I am disabled, but I can do something. When you look at the social services, we have pointed out that education, you look at how our children are not able to go to school because they are disabled. Should it be? They should be the #1 priority, surely. And we have also talked about mindset change, which is also one pillar. That surely it focuses on mindset change and cross-cutting issues, which disability is one of them. When you look at the committee, the parish development committee at that level down, the membership, the guidelines indicate that one of the members should be a person with a disability, so that they are able to air out issues affecting women, men with disabilities at that level. So at this point, I believe that local governments, civil society at that level, who are at the grassroots, should make sure that these guidelines, before even a committee is approved, should ensure that who is a person with a disability, to make sure that the committee is inclusive in that manner. We also had issues to do with membership. Then when we look at interpretation or information sharing, we all agree that as government, we have lagged behind on this, but we take it up to ensure that probably we would organize sessions, maybe train some of our members to learn maybe sign language, so that it eases translation, information sharing. Then also, as National Planning Authority, we are also trying to think about translating the popular version of the NDP 3 into Braille. But without your efforts, we wouldn't manage. We appreciate. Therefore, as National Planning Authority, we commit to ensuring that the new guidelines, the disability inclusion development guidelines, are produced to ensure that plans, budgets are aligned. Then also, secondly, we continue advocating for disability planning, making sure that in whatever we do and whoever works towards towards implementing the NDP is accountable. As National Planning Authority, that is our commitment in this session. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. For me, I'm only interested in those words. Commitment, those ones. The others are okay, but I'm more interested in the commitment language. But take a seat, because I want the protection of these women, because you might strangle me what I'm going to say. Actually, what women with disabilities are talking about is that you're using wrong approaches in planning. And this is what we found in Shema, that when they are reporting the number of people, women and men, who have benefited from a program, and then the persons with disabilities. But when you ask how many women with disabilities among the persons with disabilities, then that they are all clumped as one category. So the request that Piloya was talking about is that is it possible also to break down the number of women with disabilities benefiting and the men? Because the reason why the National Council for Women was created, the reason why the Ministry of Gender was, even the women movement was active, was because they wanted to see themselves in the figures. Yeah, it just to be mentioned. If you call me by my name, then I know you know me, not so? But if you call me, you people, yes, I'm a person, but I have a name, yeah? So in the planning figures, and this goes also to you, boss, I think what she was saying is that even in when you're doing your data, is it possible to break it down to the different disability categories? Therefore, Mumbeja can know that the little people, that the youth can know that the women of this category. So in other words, that's the discussion they are talking about. So in other words, the women with disabilities have very little trust in men with disabilities when it comes to cutting the cake. I hope you'll protect me, you people. So in other words, when you say a disability grant for persons with disabilities, even there, they are not getting a fair share. So that's what they are saying. And unless if the figures are broken down and well articulated, that's when they will, as government, as planning authority, as you'll say, yes, persons with disabilities are benefited. But when actually among the persons with disabilities, the youth are being left out, the women are being left out, yeah. So in other words, there's still, they were talking about exclusion within exclusion. So, who else has, who is ready to use the language I want to hear? Commit. You boss. No, I want the chairperson to come last because I want her to even to take a photo with Piloya as a commitment. So, the microphone is here with the sanitizer and the statistics. This time we want only to hear figures.
You want to hear figures? Good afternoon, members. Once again, my name is Nakamia Josephine from Uganda Bureau of Statistics. I'm working in the Department of Gender and Disability. So, UBOS has been, all in its surveys, it has been including a module on disability. The UDHS labor force surveys, which was 1819, UNHS 2019-2020, and Uganda National Survey on Violence Against Women and Children, that was done in 2020. All those things were included. And we also had a special survey which was called Uganda Functional Difficulties Survey, which was carried out in 2017. And that survey went in details to cater for each and every disability. That report is there at UBOS. I know it is even in those organizations which fund such activities. So, with the UBOS, we are clear with that. Our data is disaggregated. And let's see, we've been following the Washington group of short questions, which are, for example, for these other surveys: seeing, hearing, walking,
communication, remembering, self-care, such things. But those special surveys, there is another survey on functional difficulties, which is going to be carried out, I hope in September 2022. So the other one was, which goes in details, catering for albinos, short persons, and all the other types of disabilities. They are included there. Yeah. Where is the data? I've told you that the other survey, which was done in 2017, the report is available.
Can we,
this is my
please,
first
can
time
you
in
protect my visitor? Please, save my visitor. And she has only a few minutes. You're eating part of her time.
Okay, you are asking me for that data, which puts in all those things. Uganda Functional Difficulties Survey 2017. That one you will get a publication, and it will, you just Google it, it will come. And it was done with WUBOS and Ministry of Gender. Yes. So you will get each and every detail of those things which you are asking for. And in the next survey, which will be in 2022, September, I hope, if things go well, again, those things will be there, and they will be published. If you want other publications of WUBOS, still you can get them when you Google, like things like a UDHS, Labor Force Survey. There are modules on what? On disability. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much. No, because I've not heard that, that's why I'm saying she has to say something. She hasn't said anything yet. You know what I'm looking for, not so? Yeah, so, but she's going to get seated, and may I find a way of, asking her to speak the language I'm looking for. Commitment. Yeah, but apologies that we are running out of time. We have 5 minutes. And I want to use the remaining 5 minutes. I'm going to ask Monica to come here. I'm going to request Lydia also to come here. I'm going to request the chairperson, Women Council, also to come and... No, Gloria, sit. Don't worry. I want them you want to listen. You're representing the voices of women with disabilities, not so? So now we want to, before we get to the closing, you had your hand up, and I don't know whether it is a burning issue. Okay.
Okay. Thank you so much. Good afternoon, members. My name is Mary Harriet Lamuno. I'm the Executive Director at the Uganda Women Parliamentary Association. We are based at Parliament. I'm happy to be part of this discussion. And as the women's organization at Parliament, we pledge to support the voices, to speak for persons with disability at Parliament. At WOPA, we have persons with disability representative in the board. And even when we engage, we are very clear on how to ensure that we are really disability inclusive in our programming, in the work we do at national level. So we commit to speaking for persons with disability, influencing budgets and programs at policy level. Thank you so much.
Again, for the commitment and to know that you're going to push the issues that Evelyn is raising in the spaces where you are. So, like as I've said, we would have loved to have the entire day to ourselves, but we just wanted to, we're not very sure whether you'd show this level of commitment. And we now therefore also commit that we shall engage you further. Yeah, we shall, these issues, we need to make sure that at least we document them properly, but also we make sure that they are well understood. For any of those issues that have been left out and you think they are very pertinent, please feel free to reach out to us, either FIDA ourselves or Nao or Nwodu. Any one of us can, use that to do that. And I can see many people want to speak and to speak to me. And I'm being bribed by Edson's former boss, so, and Obi. So Edson was looking at me and they were saying that if you leave out my boss, you're in trouble. So,
thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. As a cultural leader, I would like to, the rapporteurs of this workshop to help me draft this appropriate commitment in respect to culture and our religions in particular. Every one of us belongs to a particular religion, whether Islam, Catholic, Protestant, born again, or whatever, and we belong to our individual cultures. How can our individual cultures, individual religions, come on board to promote the welfare of women? I've observed this in particular, historically, our women are in the kitchen. In my, for example, a woman cannot be a clan leader. And in my clan leaders council, other than being Senga and the aunt, the woman is not a leader. But we have able, productive women. If it can happen to a woman, what happens to a disabled Musoga woman? What is she? So I would like to request the rapporteur to help me put that into the appropriate voice as a commitment on behalf of this House.
But I was also waiting for you to start talking. What is the commitment of you in your ministry? But we shall talk later on. Yeah. So, like as I've said, in the interest of time, let's draw it close. And I'll take back the microphone to Evelyn. Are you happy with the commitments? Are you walking back to Gulu? Are you going to tell those women that indeed you were there and people committed?
Thank you very much, moderator. And my colleagues, all protocol observed. I think I'm happy because I've had a lot of commitments from the different departments, from the different people present here. We are only looking forward to the implementation of those commitments for us to be more happy. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much, Evelyn. Can we give her another round of applause? Because I think she has represented the women with disabilities well. And I think the way she has documented those issues has been good. Thank you so much, and thanks Nwodu for coordinating this.
Thank you very much, Thomas. In the morning when I spoke, I requested that I speak without my mask so that you can hear me properly. So I am riding on your agreement in the morning. Yes, it's still standing. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for the discussions that we have had. Very vibrant, very informative for those who are ignorant. Somebody used that word, and sometimes we are ignorant. You know, many times you learn by what you go through. And sometimes because you are not going through a situation, you don't deliberately think about it. So then we turn out to be ignorant. But we are learning, and we are continuing to try our best to make sure that everyone is included. And including everyone means including women with disabilities. I want to go back to the morning session where the chairperson of Nwodu challenged us and said, where are women with disabilities working at the Secretariat of NAU? And Madam Chair, we do try to be inclusive, and if you see our adverts, we actually mention that we are an inclusive organization. We also advertise and we share as widely as possible, including with Nwodu. So I'm also going to challenge the chairperson to go back to Nwodu and make sure that the information person shares whatever adverts come, because us as NGOs, we make sure any advert reaches the other NGO because they might know somebody who qualifies for that job. So we do try, but we'll continue improving. It's good to challenge us, because then when an advert is going out, we begin to think, maybe we can even send to the chairperson of Nwodu. Yeah, in regards to women's economic empowerment, one of our program areas as now is women's economic empowerment. And currently, we are implementing a project in Luwero. And through that project, we specifically went out to select organizations of women living with disabilities. We have groups that are working on, they do tailoring, and we have supported them with equipment. We have women who are doing knitting, also supported with equipment. Then there are those who are doing different kinds of crafts, bags and shoes. But also we have trained those women in such a way that they're able to apply for any program that is available and get the money. And I don't have the numbers. I know that my namesake, Monica, has the numbers, but there are several groups from Luwero who benefited from the Uganda Women's Economic Entrepreneurship, Uganda Women's Entrepreneurship Program. Yes, yeah. And that is because they were supported to understand how do we work in a group and how do we engage in business. It's one thing to say that we are going to involve women in economic empowerment programs, but it's another for them to actually benefit from it, because many people have got money from these programs and they have distributed the money and they have sat back and things have failed. Or they have tried to do something, but because they don't have the group dynamics, they have also failed to deliver. So as now we commit to continue working with women on economic empowerment, and we will specifically look out for women with disabilities, and we will proudly report that we are working with women with disabilities. And like Edson said, we also commit to continue engaging you in different spaces that we are in. when we began the meeting in the morning, Thomas said what we should introduce ourselves properly. But you know, some of us also are defiant, and I decided that I was going to defy.
That is the problem of defiance. I had to switch you off.
You switched me off because you are the above. Yeah, so I was defiant and I didn't introduce myself properly. Okay, many times I try to compartmentalize depending on where I am. I am the ED of now, but I'm also a commissioner at the Uganda Law Reform Commission. Now somebody is going to say, how do you hold two jobs? At the Uganda Law Reform Commission, when you're a commissioner, you are not full-time like Human Rights Commission. It's like being on the board. And the Uganda Law Reform Commission is a body that has the mandate to reform laws. When we talk about reform, it's about looking at the existing law and improving them and developing new ones. Then there's also law revision, the one that looks at the laws that exist and continue to, or maybe to shape them. For example, now we have the succession amendment that has been passed. That is a new law. It has to be included in the laws of Uganda. There are those volumes that are produced periodically. Also the different amendments, for example, in the Constitution, the laws that are repealed, pronouncement, judicial make sure that that is included in the law and it comes in the volumes of the laws of Uganda. So as part of the Law Reform Commission, because wherever we are, we try to make sure that we include persons with disabilities. So at the Law Reform Commission, we have translated the Constitution into Braille for persons with visual impairment. Yeah, those words, you have to keep looking for them, yeah. So it has been translated. Last week, we issued a statement as the Law Reform Commission about the availability of the Constitution in Braille. We had been informed by the Attorney General that he wanted the President to be the one to launch it. So that is still in discussion. And the launch, I want to believe that is going to happen soon. And I've also requested the chairperson of the Law Reform Commission, because me, I'm a small person, but we have a chairperson. And I said I would like to have representation of persons with disabilities. So I will continue, I commit to continue pursuing that so that we have persons with disabilities represented at the launch. Of course, there will be very few, but even if we have 3, we'll appreciate that. So that's what I wanted to communicate. Once again, thank you very much for coming. Thank you very much for your contributions. And thank you very much to the government institutions that have committed to take this forward, and individuals who have committed to take this forward. Each one of us have a duty to play wherever we are. And when I say that, I want to go back to what we do these days, because we have smartphones. When we see something going wrong in the community, we document with our phones and then we post. Now, when you see a woman with disability, or when you see a person with disability being violated, your duty is not to record. Your duty is to intervene. And as Ugandans, please let us start doing that. Yeah. So with those remarks now, I would like to invite the chairperson of the National Women's Council to address us. Madam, you are welcome. Let me first spray away my COVID before I invite this important lady.
Thank you so much, my sister Monica. But allow me also to remove this mask. I think some of you are seeing me for the first time. Is it? Surely. No. Our sister from the Ministry of Gender, Monica, the ED of NAU, all stakeholders here, but in a special way, the 2 ladies who actually presented, and all of you people. My name is Hajat Farida Chibowa. I'm the National Chairperson of the Women's Council. I'm happy to be here, and I greet all of you in the name of God. I want to thank you so much for coming. This is a very important meeting. We normally have meetings, but this is a special one. I want you to believe. I want to thank the organizers for organizing this meeting, because like one person said, we are all temporarily abled. At any time you can become disabled. So allow me to thank everyone who is here. The National Women's Council, where I am the national chairperson, we work under the Ministry of Gender. Our offices are in Ntinda, and I think the disabled women in this case are very important. And of course, when you talk of economic empowerment of all people, there is a category of people that you need to look at specifically. Because we all need, but there is that category of people that needs more attention, and these are the disabled women. I want to thank the government of Uganda, before I thank the ministry, for looking at the disabled, the people with disability in a special way. This one, you can believe me. Government has looked at so many people, but when you look at the disabled people, a special attention has been drawn to the people with disability. And I want to thank you, the people who are here and those that are outside. We have women leaders. The council has women leaders in the structures, right from the village level to the national level. We have 5 women leaders in all the villages of Uganda. We have at the parish, we have at the sub-county, at the district, and at the national level. I want to thank the president that the person representing people with disability on our council is now a minister in the Ministry of Gender. That is Honorable Samo. Honorable Samo is one kind of person, every time we are in a meeting, you discuss and you don't talk about disabled people. That will not be a meeting. So I want to appreciate her, and the fact that she's a minister now, it is going to be easy for us to do our work. I want to introduce to you our executive secretary. That is Colin Mijuka. At the end, I will invite him to make a commitment here. Yes, because he's always in the kitchen, and all the programs that we do, he's always there. So Collins, prepare. You're going to come and make a commitment. Allow me to thank Mrs. Evelyn and the team that went out in different regions to capture all the information that has been presented here. All the issues that she has talked and all that you have added in are real issues. Thank you so much. And of course, I have noted with concern so many issues. And there is one person who raised the issue of CDOs and corruption at the district level. That one is a real issue. And actually the ministry was planning to have a workshop for all CDOs because all the sectors are suffering because of CDOs. I don't know. When you go to the young people, the youth, when you come to the women, when you go to people with disabilities, everyone is complaining. I don't know whether they are so overworked. I don't know whether it is in them that they should make others suffer, but there is a serious problem. We are only waiting for that meeting with all the CDOs in the whole country so that we can put them to order. It is not only the disabled people, but it is on all of us, the women, the young people, the older persons. So there is a serious problem there. Allow me also to thank Mrs. Olive Namatov. Thank you so much for your, Namtebi, Owe Mama. Thank you so much for your presentation. And thank your mom. Let us all clap for her mom, because she has really brought it out that it is this woman who didn't look at me the way I was, but she labored to make her who she is right now. Thank you so much for coming out with a voice. And whatever you have talked, we have also been hearing. Yes. I want to put emphasis on what one of our colleagues said, that we should put a strong language on the disability issues. That is very important, because sometimes people take disabled people for granted. After all, me, I'm not what? Disabled. And when you're talking about issues to do with disability, those who are not disabled, not all of them, they might say that you're just talking for the sake of what? Talking. But the language should be what? Should be strong. I have noted that. And about inclusiveness and mindset change, there is one person who said that it should start at the village level, at the family level, and then it goes at the village until it comes up to the national level. But more emphasis should be put at the family level. What do we communicate when we are with our family members? I can share with you a story. I was challenged with my daughter. I have a daughter. She's now in senior 4. But during lockdown, I happened to take her for some coaching, if I may say. But she found a very disabled girl. This girl could not walk. She could not do anything for herself. My daughter called me breathlessly. All the time she was like, "Mommy, there is a girl here. She needs help." I said, "Which kind of help?" She was telling me she needs this, she needs that. You buy for us this, you buy for us this. I became a bit busy. My girl took pictures and sent pictures. "You see, Mommy, you're not responding. I want these things." So I was like, oh my God. I went and bought those things. I had to rush because I think she was now disorganized. I just knew that she was not going to concentrate. But at home, we have always encouraged them to help. So she really looked at this girl that she needed help. And the only person who could give help, it was Mommy, the chair of the Women's Council. She even told me, "Mommy, remember you're the chair." I said, "Okay, I'm coming." I bought things. She told me, "You bring even the gloves." She cannot even help herself to the toilet. "You bring gloves, you bring pads, you bring knickers." I bought. So I just wanted to share with you that story, because at home we have always encouraged these people, these young people, to help. So when we train our children in the families to always give a helping hand, let us put emphasis on disabled people. I personally, I commit myself that this time round, having attended this meeting, I'm going to run an extra mile on helping the disabled people. We are going to celebrate the International Women's Day. You know, we celebrate the Rural Women's Day and this one. We are celebrating this one on the 8th of March. And of course, we have been there noting what we are going to say. We always get an opportunity to make a statement. I can assure you, statement on disabled women is going to be there. And we normally have an opportunity to meet the president before the Women's Day, and we always go with Honorable Samo as our member. Not as a minister, but as our what? This time around, we are going to go with her as a minister, and I'm sure we are going to capture some of these things and we bring it to the attention of the big man. Thank you so much for this meeting. It has been a good one. And of course, like you have said, anytime you can become disabled. But I would like to encourage you to always be strong, and the voices should come out boldly. You did not commit any crime to be disabled. Feel comfortable, produce children as many as you can. Yes. I'm seeing someone doing like this. Okay. At this time, I want to also to invite our executive secretary to make a commitment. So you're going there.
As Collins is getting ready, I also commit that I'll make that these issues will be well documented and presented to him.
Thank you very much, the moderator. Thank you very much, Madam Chairperson of the National Women's Council. Ladies and gentlemen, protocol observed. I would have shared a little more, but allow me, before I start, congratulate the organizers that, as they say, that charity begins at home, for purposefully making even this meeting inclusive. That all of us are here to discuss pertinent issues that we all need to get involved in. Mr. Edson Injirabakunzi is a testimony to me of inclusion. When I joined my senior one, I was a little boy. I think for him, he had already started school where I went. And at that time, sometimes getting beds was difficult. As a new student, I thank the parents of Edison that they were inclusive in their paying school fees. And I benefited from their actions. I could not get a bed. I would have spent my 1 year of senior one sleeping on the ground. But Edson Injirabakunzi accommodated me in his bed. A 2x4 bed. So I'm a testimony of inclusion. It would be unfair to be in an institution as a technical head that do not respect inclusion of issues of women with disabilities. We commit, like asked by the chairperson. These are issues that we've been discussing in our councils, but I'll make sure as a secretary that these issues of women with disabilities do not leave the agenda for discussion by the Women's Council. But in our work plan, we have been thinking what my sister Ochaya talked about, to profile the participation of women with disabilities in the women councils. It could be on paper that they have to be represented, but are they there? If they are there, how many are they? Are they participating? I promise you this, that we as the Women's Council will profile to know how many of the women with disabilities are actively participating within the Women's Council. We pledge that we shall invite you and have a consultative meeting with the Women with Disabilities movement and see what are the gaps within the Women's Council Act, so that if there are gaps within the leadership, we discuss them and push the executive for the amendment of the law to ensure that these issues are mainstreamed. Together with EC and all others, already we have issues of disability within our work plans and policies. Finally, I want to confirm that actually the presence of the chairperson today here is a confirmation of our commitment. I thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Collins, and thanks for the commitment. Like as I said, our commitment is to keep reminding you and knocking on your door and making sure that those commitments, like Piloya said, that she'll only be happy if these commitments are implemented, not so? Yes. And I'll try as much as possible to make her happy by following you up until when the things. So I think your work has been simplified because the Ministry of Gender has been suffering capacity issues. We're looking for people to support them. Now you've seen. Please, if you can make your own comments and observations regarding the comments that have been made by the women with disabilities in Uganda, but also, do we want the ministry also to commit?
Yes, the ministry.
Do you want them to commit or because it is their responsibility? Okay, people want to hear. Okay, yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Thomas. Before the ministry speaks, I think I should give some background. We invited the minister, but you know how busy these ministers can be. There are so many things going on, Disability Summit, CSW, but plus other national duties. So she was not able to come, and the minister has not delegated someone to be here. I thought I should make that clear. We also invited the PS, but the PS is not around, and the current acting PS is the Director of Social Protection, where disability falls. So we invited the Director for Social Protection, but as you are aware, we've lost a cultural leader from TESO, the Morimor, so they're also busy with arrangement of that funeral. So he delegated the Commissioner, Disabilities, and the Elderly, who equally was not available. I give this preamble because Madam Lydia Chiumulo is representing the Commissioner, Disabilities, and Elderly. So I now invite the Commissioner, Disabilities, and the Elderly to speak to us, to commit, because these people want to hear the word commitment, and then also to close the meeting. Madam.
Thank you very much, Madam. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I bring you warm greetings from the Ministry of Gender, Labor, and Social Development. My name is Lydia Chiumulo. I am a Senior Rehabilitation Officer. And rehabilitation officers, as you know, work with people with disabilities. Members of Parliament here today, the Chairperson of the National Women Council, Atlas Alliance, the Consortium, ADD International, the National Union of Women with Disabilities, government representatives present, disability people's organizations, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, like I said, I bring you greetings from your mother. I was telling the moderator when he talked about commitment, I was telling him I've never seen a mother who swears to commit, because mothers are committed by nature, but nevertheless I will commit. My senior from the ministry, in the morning said it all, and my previous seniors also here. And once again, I want to thank NAO and your partners for such a very, very important meeting to stock take on how women have benefited, and how they can benefit. Because society already disadvantages a woman, and when you have a disability, it is worse. So it's very, very important, an engagement, because it strengthens our advocacy intentions. And a few of my comments, while we deliberate on how women with disabilities have benefited and how they should benefit, I think it's also important to stock take on what we know. It's very important, like all of you know, there's a famous writer who said that knowledge is power. How much do we know? At the ministry, we have a deaf person, but she's in the gender department. And every time she finds the disability department, she finds herself somehow attached to the department all the time. And in the long run, we realized nobody could communicate with her. But she has an interpreter. But every time she came to the department, she made sure she came alone. So you had to figure out what she was saying. So in that instance, we started trainings 3 weeks ago, and her interpreter is training the Department of Disability in Sign Language Interpretation. Now we find other departments coming on board. So this gives us knowledge, and then we have power, and we are equipped as the disability department to communicate with other people with hearing impairments when they come. So this is my call also. We have these very many programs that government is doing. My senior has said, the chairperson, government has done many, many things, but how much do we know about them? How many of us here know about the National Special Grant of People with Disabilities? It is up and running. Over 4,000 groups have benefited. Do we know about it? How many of us know about the UAP? How many of us have benefited? How many of us know about the youth program, the entrepreneurship program, youth livelihood program? How many of us? How many have benefited? Who has passed on the information? Ladies and gentlemen, we have rehabilitation centers in this country. I know you are aware, and there are 4 in Lweza, in Barara, in Ruti, in Pumude, and in Ochoko. But right now, you cannot believe we are struggling with intaking youth with disabilities. And here, it's pertinently important for girls with disabilities to enroll. But some people don't exactly pass on the information, and we can only do much. So ladies and gentlemen, let's get information. We have the CBR program. How much do we know about the CBR program? We have the Equal Opportunities Commission. How much do we know about it? What does it do? Everybody here, I think I can guess that 90% of everybody in this room has a smartphone. Information is all over the place. The internet, the Disability Act, what is in there that talks about employment of persons with disabilities? How many of us here know that an employer of persons with disability shall be allowed deductions of up to 10% taxable income? How many of us? So ladies and gentlemen, let's equip ourselves with knowledge. Because while the truth is we have not done enough, and enough can never be enough. But let's exhaust what we have before us. Let's exhaust these programs. In that when we come, we say, at least this and this has been achieved, but this is missing. So what do we do to fill up the gaps? Yes, let's endeavor as well to pass on knowledge, ladies and gentlemen. Let's pass on information. You have learned about the National Special Grant for People with Disabilities. I will not talk about the details. Pass it on to somebody else. Tell somebody about it. Maybe for you are advantaged and you don't need to benefit from the 5 million that government is giving to a minimum of 5 to 10 people a group. Pass on the information to someone else. Pass it on to groups of parents with persons with disabilities. So it's also important, like I said before, that prior we stock take. We stock take because this helps us strengthen and know where the gaps are, what we need to do, but most importantly, has something been done? Because the chairperson strongly said that the government has put an eye, especially on people with disabilities. But yes, it is not enough. But also in the long run, let's appreciate it and also exhaust it. And finally, ladies and gentlemen, much as our job is commitment for us in the Disability and Elderly Department, I commit on behalf of the Elderly and Disability Department to pursue inclusiveness for women, specifically this time with disabilities. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much.
And I declare this meeting closed, the owner.
All right. Yeah, to be put in a document which we shall share and follow up with the actions. Now, because the chairperson Women Council said that this is a unique meeting, the people in communications are requesting for a unique photo. So they request that we come here and take a group photo with our masks on. Yeah? So, and then secondly, we are all invited to lunch. We shall be issued with a coupon as we step out. There are also promotional materials on the desks. So please, as you walk out, get as much information as you need. Again, I want to thank you. I want to thank my colleagues from Nuodu. I want to thank my colleagues from Nao and my colleagues from FIDA for this. Again, we'll be able to keep some of you informed on how the Global Disability Summit deliberations are going, but also what comes out of that is also equally important to us. Okay, I thank you. Can we then come, how do you want us to be? You can come and stand up.
Are we going to have chairs?
No,
And
well,
some people, I think some people should sit because we are many, and we want to be in front of this table so that Thomas. Am I right? No, I'm wrong.
We're going to be in front of the table.
Right now.